If you wanted to get into a physical altercation and you felt like you were defending yourself, you will defend yourself with hands. You don't defend a non-lethal situation with a lethal weapon.
This was big over the weekend. One of the defense's own witnesses during cross-examination said, quote, "I think Karmelo was in the wrong." Prosecutors added, did Karmelo Anthony provoke the confrontation? The witness answered yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited to announce to you guys, our goal is to get 250 kids from Prison Fellowship, Angel Tree, to go to summer camp. $200 will help one kid go to summer camp for the entire duration. If that's not in your budget, $40 per day. So let's do our part. Let's do what God has called us to do, and let's help get as many kids as we can as possible to camp like we've done every single year. Let me give you a couple stats to put this in perspective. About 5,800 kids went to the summer camp last year. About 1,200 of them gave their life to Christ. This is an opportunity for them to meet counselors, for them to make friends, to feel loved, to feel seen. All of the things that we want to give our children, we can give this to someone else's child whose parent is incarcerated. And here's another number that I want you guys to know. It's about 1.5 million kids whose parent is incarcerated right now, and over 5 million kids will experience an incarcerated parent at some point in life. Let's change this. Let's give kids an opportunity. We can do it. And I know we can do it because we do it every year. Let's get to 250. We're at 80 right now. Go to angeltree.org/Tatum. That's angeltree.org/Tatum. Let's get these kids to camp. Let's get to this controversial case of Karmelo Anthony. As a former police officer, I want you guys to hear me very quickly or very clearly on my take on what has happened so far, right? The prosecution has made their opening statements. The defense has made their opening statements today. Then they're going to make their closing arguments, I believe, tomorrow. However, here is where we're at. The prosecution has made very clear that this was not self-defense and this was murder, that Karmelo Anthony instigated the altercation. He refused to leave the tent. He threatened Austin, and then he took action. The reason that they charge him with premeditated murder is because he said, touch me and see what happened, and he know that he had a knife, and he's going to stab a kid when they should have went fisticuffs. But instead, he decided to use a deadly weapon in a non-deadly force situation. With all of that being said, they've determined that he should be charged and be convicted of premeditated murder. Now, the defense on their end is saying that he's a much smaller guy. He was intimidated by Austin Metcalf and some of the other teammates, and that it was a spontaneous act of self-defense, which is why he should not be found guilty. But based on the totality of circumstances in the video I'm about to show you, this will prove to you how he's going to be found guilty. And after he's found guilty, I think they're going to have a little bit of sympathy for him because he's young and it was spontaneous and he shows some remorse. They're going to sentence him in a lighter way. But he will be found guilty based on what I've heard, in my opinion. Anything can happen. You could have a woke white liberal on a board that just can't see himself prosecuting a black man, and then you have a hung jury. So listen to this clip of the news, and this is proof beyond a reasonable doubt, in my opinion, that they will find Karmelo Anthony guilty. Roll it.
Hi, Bill. Well, the testimony during this trial has been emotional. The jurors heard from more than a dozen students that were under the tent and saw the stabbing. Now, prosecutors straight up asked several of these witnesses, was this self-defense? And they simply answered no. So Karmelo Anthony, he is charged with murder after admitting to fatally stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf in the chest during a high school track meet last year. Investigators say the confrontation started after Anthony was sitting under another school's team tent. Witnesses testified that Metcalf repeatedly asked him to leave. Jurors were shown grainy surveillance footage showing the physical confrontation lasted just seconds. Now, an 18-year-old witness who knew both Anthony and Metcalf took the stand. He testified, quote, Karmelo said, "You will have to move me." Austin put his hand on his back. I saw Karmelo's hand go in the backpack. We're at a track meet. I wouldn't expect anything to be in there, Karmelo said. Touch me. You'll have to move me and find out, trying to provoke him. Then what happens, the prosecutor asks. The witness says Austin put his hand on him and falls back. How was Austin trying to move him? The witness says it was him trying to move him off his seat, a soft shove. A 16-year-old witness then testified that, quote, Anthony repeated, "F y'all, I'm not going to leave." He said Anthony also threatened, "Touch me and see what happens," while Metcalf told him, "I'm not going to fight you." And then notably, this was big over the weekend, one of the defense's own witnesses during cross-examination said, quote, "I think Karmelo was in the wrong." Prosecutors added, "Did Karmelo Anthony provoke the confrontation?" The witness answered yes. Now the state rested after calling 21 witnesses. Now the defense presenting their case. We're expected to hear from more of their witnesses today, Bill.
Wow.
All right, so let's put this in perspective. You have people who are witnesses that are black. So that's going to curb this racial tension that's allegedly occurring from stew heads, not the actual rational people that's in the investigation. And you have people who are eyewitnesses saying that there was provocation from Karmelo, that Austin Metcalf had made statements like, I don't want to fight you, I'm in a track meet. Like I would expect from most reasonable white boys. These dumb, let me say this, because it's not all black and white. But I have noticed, and I know this because I grew up in these environments. This black culture, it gets these young boys killed because they hold the animus against white people that they should not have. I honestly believe the reason all of this happened was because Karmelo said, "I don't care, I'm gonna sit under these white boys' tent and they ain't gonna do nothing about it." And he went and sat under the tent. I played college football. I played football in Texas and I ran track in Texas. You don't sit under somebody else's tent, bro. That's like, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but that's kind of like if you were playing football and your team is on this sideline, the other team on the other sideline, and a guy from the other team comes and sit down on the bench on your sideline. You're like, bro, we don't mix. It don't matter if it's raining or not. We want you to leave our tent. This is our school's tent. You're not even here. We don't go to our school. We don't even know you. Bro, you need to go to somebody else's tent. If your school don't have a tent, it ain't got nothing to do with us. And then instead of you being a reasonable person and saying, you know what, it ain't my tent, screw these guys. I ain't going nowhere. You're going to have to make me. It's because a white kid cannot say nothing to some of these black boys because they've been taught to hate white people. They've been taught to have an animus against white people. They've been taught the white man is holding you back. It's because of the white man that you don't have this. White man bad, white man bad. So you feel that if a white man say something, you starting to summon your ancestors. When this ain't nothing but you under somebody's tent. But instead, you want to fight. You want to be aggressive. White people ain't telling me nothing to do. I used to be that kid. Just being silly. And that's why I think they're going to have sympathy on him because he was just being silly. But I believe he's going to be found guilty. And let me just give you this quick synopsis, then we're going to get to Lil Boosie. Because you cannot provoke an altercation and then claim self-defense once the other person has engaged. If you are saying you got a knife at a track meet, which you're not supposed to have, then they ask you to leave the tent and you're combative and saying, I'm not going to leave the tent. That's another team's property. So you're already doing something wrong. And then once you get to the point where they go, well, we're going to move you. Well, they can physically move you with their hands. If you wanted to get into a physical altercation and you felt like you were defending yourself, you would defend yourself with hands. You don't defend a non-lethal situation with a lethal weapon. And so that's not going to, even if it was self-defense, the proportionality is off. That means that if you want to defend yourself, you throw punches. You can't say, I'm going to stab you when you're trying to throw punches or push me. All of these are deadly weapons. A gun and a knife and any sharp object is considered a deadly weapon. So this is no different in the eyes of the court if Karmelo Anthony was getting pushed and he took a gun and shot Austin Metcalf. It's no different. He used deadly force, stabbing or shooting, to engage in an altercation where there was no deadly force present or no threat of serious bodily injury or death. He's going to be found guilty, unfortunately, for his family. All right.